Where to start this review of sorts? Should I talk about how Stardew Valley was developed by one person concerned ape, aka Eric, or should I talk about the updates of Stardew Valley since its initial release date? No, I'm not going to talk about any of that. Instead, I'm going to be talking about Stardew Valley's mechanics, gameplay, the music, art style, and of course, the best girl to rule them all, Abigail. Stardew Valley has many interesting people to meet and places to see, like Pierre's General Store, or the dastardly devils at the JoJo Mart. And how can we forget about the lively people living there, like the town's gothic best girl Abigail. And the town's drunk Pam. The hermit Linus, the town's pretty boy Elliot, and the all-powerful and mighty Wizard. Once you've taken all that in, let's talk about the different activities you can do, like farming, mining, and raising the animals. These aren't cows! Fixing up the community center, and saving the best for last, the glorious fishing. Now, let's talk about each of those. First off, farming. Farming is the support beam for Stardew Valley, and it's the way I make most of my money. So when I say it's important, I really mean it. Of course, there are other ways to earn money, but we'll get to that in a bit. Back to farming. Farming is incredibly slow at the start, but seeing the slow growth of automation is really cool and it makes farming worth the grind. The amount of fruit and vegetables you can grow is honestly pretty impressive. From the beta wheat to the Chad strawberries, you can make money off of pretty much anything you want to grow. Once you've grown something, you can either just straight up sell it or make a dish out of it. You can also pickle or jam most of what you can grow, which is what I end up doing in most of my games. Now let's talk about mining. I'm going to just talk about the first mine because I don't want to ruin the magic of exploration. Throughout the first 30 floors, you'll find green slimes, the the ducky, and the ever-annoying rock crab. There are many reasons why you'd want to go way back in the mine. One of the most useful things is that you can collect minerals like copper. This is very useful for upgrading tools. You can even find gemstones like amethyst for Abigail. There is more I could say about the mines, but I think I'll move on. Now, let's move on to my favorite activity, fishing. Stardew Valley has one of the best fishing minigames in recent years for me. Fishing in Red Dead Redemption 2. And Far Cry 6 are also great. There are probably more that I can't think of. There are many different types of fish that you can find in 3 different locations. The lake, the river, and the ocean. Of course, the main benefit with catching fish is that you're able to sell them. One thing I also like is that depending on where you go, you'll catch different types of fish. The season will also affect this, and the time of day, and weather can also impact when certain fish can be caught. You can also catch a treasure chest. One thing you may get is bait for your rod. The fish will bite your fishing hook a lot faster with it on, and that can save you a decent amount of time. You can also get bobber upgrades for your fishing rod from either the treasure chest or from the store. The good thing about this is that it gives your fishing rod special strengths. There is a downside though. Your bobber will decay faster with each fish bite. Lastly, you can even catch gemstones like amethyst. Alright, let's talk about raising animals. I'm gonna be honest, this is the second least common thing I do in Stardew Valley, next to being social. Although it can be really satisfying to take care of animals, it is also tedious to have to feed them and collect all the resources they produce. There is automation in the mid to late game for collecting resources from animals and for feeding them. There are several different choices of animals you can raise, like chicken, pigs, and cows. Both of my large animal coops are filled with kegs to make wine and juices. So I'm just going to stop this part of the review here, and move on to something I can talk about a little bit more. Okay, let's talk about the combat. I find that the combat is pretty mid. I wouldn't say it's the German sausage of video game combat. The worst, but it's not the best. Let me break weapon types down a little bit. You've got your melee weapons like swords, daggers, and clubs. For your range weapons, you've got slingshots, and for gadgets, you have bombs. In the first mine, the combat doesn't really change past the first 30 floors. You just encounter new enemies that require strength gear. I find this is also the strength of the combat though. It's familiar enough where you can get pretty good at it. Even if there are new enemies, you can slay them pretty easily thanks to the simplistic nature of the combat. The downside is that the combat can get pretty boring after 10-ish floors of the mine. Luckily, in my experience, that's all you can accomplish in a day before your energy depletes too much and you pass out. The main takeaway from the combat is it can be a little plain, but it can be rewarding in a way. Like killing a green slime and getting the really rare drop, the amethyst. Let's talk about the art style and the music. Now I know very little about art and music, so I'm just going to be talking out of my ass for most of this section. Anyways, the pixel art in Stardew Valley is really colorful and well done. It also has a certain nostalgic sense to it. The music is honestly far out, from the calming nature music to the gentle main menu music. You won't really find much calmer music in gaming, except for maybe Doom. The second last thing I'm going to talk about is the relationships you can have with the townspeople. Romantic or otherwise, there are a few different ways to increase your standing with the people of Stardew Valley. Here are a few examples on how to do this. You can gift them stuff they like twice a week. It's a bit of a trial and error process at first. If you are impatient, you can look up the Stardew Valley wiki and it will tell you which items the town people like. Simply talking to the townspeople every day helps to build your relationship. And lastly, you can do epic quests to show them you care. You can also make money by doing this. By doing things mentioned above, you can earn hearts. When you earn 10 hearts with a person, you can marry them if they are available. Another benefit when you reach 10 hearts is that you can do a heart event. This is basically a cutscene with some dialogue that will really get you to know the NPC even more. Let's move on and talk about the community center. In my opinion, that's where everything in the game comes together. You may have noticed that the community center starts off abandoned. There are two ways you can help to restore it. The first option is if you're looking for the quicker and easier way. This is achieved by going to the Dastardly Devils at the Jojamart Corporation. Based on the sentence, I'm pretty sure you know how I feel about them. Honestly, I know very little about this path because I'm not a sellout. Yet. The second option is to restore the community center through donating items. Fish, farm goods, resources from animals, and the items you've collected from the mines are all things you can donate to the community center. Now, it's important to mention that you just can't donate completely random things as you please. What you really need to pay attention to is something called a bundle. You can find this in the community center. A bundle is a list of specific items that the community center requires donated. Once you've completed a bundle, not only can you visually see the community center start to rebuild itself piece by piece, but you can also unlock useful rewards. A couple of my favorites are the greenhouse, the minecart, and a bus. There are a few more rewards, but you'll have to experience them for yourself. Alright, let's wrap up this review of sorts. So we have talked about the many things to do and the people to see, but I really just scratched the surface of Stardew Valley. I would really encourage everyone to try out this game, even if it's not your cup of tea. There are plenty of things to do that you'll most likely enjoy doing. At the very least, you'll probably find it relaxing.
Anyways, thanks for watching this review of sorts.